next phase of our project, we should probably name our project. So instead of Untitled something, please change the name to Mouse Maze. Good description of what we're actually doing. So our next step is that we're going to create the backdrop that becomes the maze, the main backdrop of our project. We're also going to set it up knowing that later on we're going to create game over and you win screens to give it a little bit more realism. So when I click on backdrops, I'm going to go ahead and go to the one that lets me paint a backdrop. So I currently have, or I can come in and do backdrop 1. Either way works. What I want to do is I want to set my colors to be a gray. So I am going to take the saturation down, and that gives me a lot of choices here. If I go, either way I go, but I'm going to want to take the saturation all the way down. Then I'm going to want to pick this into a gray, not so dark that my mouse hides. So a lightish gray, think of it like a tile gray. Once I have that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get my shape. If you don't already have the outline being a no outline, go ahead and click that so that it's no outline. And then I'm going to draw my box larger than my screen. This will give me a backdrop overall. And again, if you draw this and decide it's too light or too dark, you can click on it and change the color a little bit. I'm going to actually lighten mine up slightly, which will give me this. That's a nice look. So what I'm going to do before I do anything else is I'm actually going to click on backdrop 2 and delete it. I'm going to right click on backdrop 1 and I'm going to duplicate it and get backdrop 2, and I'm going to duplicate it again and get backdrop 3. All 3 have the same gray background. Now I'm going to create these backgrounds later. So I'm only going to worry right now about backdrop 1. What I want to do is I want to create a maze. Again, some obstructions. Now, keep in mind our mouse position, because you can appear anywhere from here to here. So I really do want that area free of obstructions. Same with the other side, but you can make some obstructions here. And I feel like the easiest way to make obstructions is to get the line tool. And what I want to do is I'm going to set my outline color. So again, I'm going to take the saturation all the way out, and I'm going to change my brightness all the way up so I get white. I'm also going to set the line thickness at 50. So I'm going to make nice, really thick lines as I use the line tool. So for example, now with the line tool, I can draw a barrier that comes in like this. And I don't know why that's not wanting to be white. Oh, changed itself back to black. Try this again. Go for the white barrier. Now, as a tip, if you want to keep things really, really straight, wow, now everything's off. One more time. Remember, if you're going to try to click something, you do have to switch back to the arrow, which is kind of annoying. And this was supposed to be 50. There we go. Now we're going. And actually, I can go a little bit thicker if I want to, or a little bit thinner. Just make sure it's at least 40. Otherwise, you can get stuff where you kind of end up glitching through walls. So now I'm going to bring this down and just draw barrier right here. Now, if you hold Shift, it forces you to draw it at either 90 or 45 degrees. So I'm going to bring this down. You can kind of see where that is. I'm going to bring this up. I'm also going to put one of these like right here. Put a barrier right here. Also put one like right here. You do not have to have symmetry. So if I'd like to, I can go ahead and block this off, and I'm going to go ahead and block that off just for fun. If any of mine need to be edited, like this one's a little too far over, I'm going to get the pointer tool, bring that over, slide this over a little bit. If I don't like how long it is, I can shorten it. I can shorten that up a little bit. And I'm going to do something like that. I know this looks really, really simple, which is fine. Um, we're going to add things that make this more complex, such as bad guys and things to accomplish before you can go out of the maze. If you don't like my setup, you can set your walls up in any way that you'd like. But this is what I'm going to do to start with. Oh, actually, I broke my own rule. So we're going to get rid of this one real quick. Go back to the line tool because I want to leave some space there. But I am going to create a barrier like this. And again, I'm going to hold shift so I know it's a vertical barrier. So you can put some in, you really do need some in for testing, but I can always come back here and change it if I kind of come up with a problem. So now I'm going to go back to my mouse. So I can just click on the mouse one and go back to code. So what I don't want to be able to do as I click my green flag is I don't want to just be able to run over these barriers. I want it to not let me go through the barriers. What I'm going to do to make that happen is I'm going to this is my starting stack, so I'm not going to mess with that, but I'm going to create a similar stack. And what that is I'm going to go to my events. I'm going to get when the green flag is clicked, and forever, I want it to, if the mouse is touching the color white, which I could set either by number or I'm going to use the little color picker, then what I want to do is move -10 steps. Now, as you get to playing with this and messing with this, if you decide that your motion, which I have set at 10 steps, forward motion, needs to change to a different number, this backwards one needs to match. Otherwise, again, you can kind of glitch your way through a wall. But what should happen now is as my mouse goes forward, it can't go through it. This is exactly what I want. That is how I have those barriers act like a barrier. Now it does get kind of funny as you go along it sometimes, but typically if you just use random straight lines, you should be just fine. And that is how we start out with starting to develop our maze. Next, we're going to add a bad guy, because right now this maze is not very complicated. But if somebody's coming after us, maybe it's a little bit better.